that's one thing that people can say about me. I mean, and one thing that I know about myself, there are very few people who are like, me, Christy. Either they like me or they just can't stand me.
Yeah. It's the Germany Experience, the podcast about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. I'm your host, Sean, and welcome to it. And in this episode, I am interviewing a Southern liberal, as she describes herself. It's Christy from the USA. But before we get to that, did you see this story in the newspaper? It was actually carried in international news. It's this big of a story, people. And really, I love this one. It was a town in Bavaria. Actually, the town that I moved to when I first moved to Germany is Schweinfurt. And this is where this happened. They had to evacuate a post office because of smelly fruit. I kid you not. I just love this. I even posted it on the Facebook page, the Germany Experience Facebook page. Here's the report from theguardian.com. An overwhelming smell coming from a suspicious package at a Bavarian post office caused 6 workers to be taken to hospital. Taken to hospital! How bad is this fruit? Taken to hospital and many more to be evacuated, only for police to discover that durian fruit, and not a dangerous gas, was the reason for panic. Well, to be fair, the way 2020 is going, I don't blame these people for panicking when there's a strange smell in the post office. Because honestly, who knows what's going on in 2020? Police and firefighters rushed to the scene in Schweinfurt over fears that a parcel was releasing a harmful substance. Well, yeah, it sounds like it was. Pungent fruit. The pungent smell, this is still from the Guardian article, the pungent smell of durian is so strong that the fruit is banned in many hotels and on public transport across Asia. I've never come across this fruit, but who would want to eat it? Who would want to eat durian fruit? So it turns out that the package was a delivery of 4 Thai durian fruits sent to a 50-year-old resident by his friend in Nuremberg. And that's not a gift. That's a prank. I would like to get a durian fruit now just to see what that smells like, because that sounds pretty bad. All right, on to my guest this week. As I mentioned earlier, she self-proclaimed Southern liberal, and by her own description, there's no in-between with her. People either like her or they don't. There's no meh, Christy, meh. She explains in her interview how she tried to integrate herself, what she calls the right way, but she couldn't connect to people because, as she puts it, they sensed that she wasn't being entirely authentic. And when she decided to just be herself, the integration happened a lot easier. We also discuss why Germany is not the best country when it comes to special needs kids. And she talks about how she hasn't been back to the States in 10 years. And we also talk about how Germans are racist in a I didn't mean anything by it kind of way. She also opened a coffee shop around the corner from where she lives. And in this interview, which we recorded back in spring, we discussed the coffee shop and some decisions that she had to make. And because this interview was recorded so long ago, I've got an update. So stick around until the end of the interview for an update on what's happening with the coffee shop. One more thing. This podcast is rated explicit because sometimes some of the episodes can get a bit explicit. This episode, one of them. Where are you now in Germany?
I'm in Limburgerhof, which is in the Pfalz, not very far from Speyer.
Okay.
In a nice little dorf.
Mm-hmm. Are you living sort of rurally or?
It's a town with maybe about 13,000.
Okay, so not too small.
No, we have an S-Bahn stop. Ooh. And it's nice because we can go out and take a nice long walk every day with the dogs and the kids and get our fresh air. And there's we live sort of in the middle of a bunch of farmland.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
It's nice.
How many kids do you have?
3.
3. Okay. And ages?
Nobody should have 3 children.
Yeah, I agree.
No one.
It doesn't make any sense.
Anybody who's listening who's like, oh, maybe don't fucking do it.
Don't do it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love them all. I wouldn't get rid of any of them, but it was clearly hormones talking.
It's that whole instinctual thing that kicks in that says, oh, I need to spread my genes.
Yeah. I never believed that I would be like that, Mm-hmm. But all of my kids even are born in December. All of them.
Wow. Oh, what was happening? I mean, what would it be 9 months before?
Easter.
Spring
break.
So guess what
like
was
when I'm in
happening?
heat or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like there is some kind of pattern.
Yeah, there is. And the one has Christmas Eve birthday. And the best is, all the little omas would be like, oh, a Christkind, right? Everybody
Yeah.
says that, the little, oh, she's such a devil. She's the devil. That child. Oh
But
my God.
that's what the devil would do with his demon spawn, isn't it? He would send them on that kind of date, like the 24th of December.
And you know what he did? She's beautiful and she's funny and she is such a foul-mouthed pain in my ass.
Really?
Oh my God. She's bonkers, but I love her. But like all of the neighbors around here, even if they don't know us, they're like, oh yeah, you all have a daughter named Emma. Because they all heard me screaming her name always, like Emma. They all know. They know that there are other kids in the house too,
but they don't know the names.
Emma's name.
Yeah,
no, Emma's is clear. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So she's 14, and then is she the eldest?
No, She's the middle. So her older sister is 16, and then the youngest is 11.
Okay,
and that's a boy.
Right. Yeah, okay. So you've got very different problems to mine because my kids are a lot younger. The youngest is 5 months old and she's 6 months. Actually, Christ. She's 6 months old. And the next one up is 4, and then I have a son who's 9 years old, but he's special needs. So it's like I've got 2 4-year-olds essentially running around the house, which has been an absolute disaster during this lockdown. It's been a nightmare.
Yeah. Germany is just the best fucking place for special needs kids, isn't it? I'm saying that with a lot of sarcasm.
With the sarcasm and irony. But why do you say that?
Yeah, because it's true. Yeah. So my husband's a teacher. I studied early childhood development, and my oldest has a social anxiety disorder and depression. And my youngest has such brutal dyslexia. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
So cognitively, they're both fine, right? And for sure, it could be a bigger problem. But just through those 2 kids, I've realized how psychiatric care for kids and teens, and adults here, is really lacking. And just any idea of differentiation for kids with any sort of learning disability. Yeah. It's like they don't fit into the box, so fuck them, and that really frustrates me because I think every kid has something to offer.
Yes.
They just need the right people to help them find it. Like my idea of education is just so different than what the general education here is. But then I don't fit into that whole Waldorf pedagogic because, I vaccinate. Yeah. So on the one hand, like for the mainstream, I'm a crazy hippie. But for the crazy hippies, I don't fit in either because I'm like, medical science is awesome.
Yeah.
So
you're you're in between somewhere in your own little your own lane, basically.
I just can't tell you just that like everything about me is that I just don't fucking fit in.
You just have your own lane for everything. Just to get back to that special needs thing, I've heard similar things to what you're saying, but with our special needs kid, he's really, he's got all his motor. He's delayed with motor skills, delayed with intellect and everything. And we've always been able to find pretty good care and pretty good therapists and things like that. But he's off in a whole different stream to what I think you're talking about, because he's literally gone into Besonderschule, or whatever they call it, a Sonderschule, and he's getting a lot of the help that he needs there. But I think for the other kids, like you were saying, with other problems like dyslexia or depression and things like that, it is a bit different. And I've heard similar things actually from one of the guests on the show, the difficulties that she had finding help for her autistic kids. So,
yeah. Byron is well known to be the most progressive educationally of the German states.
Okay. You see, I'm talking about it from a Bavarian perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I can't. One of my good friends is a Sonderpädagogik Erzieherin. She's at a at a integrations kindergarten, you'll find that I don't always know anymore what the English words are for things.
I'm
I've
the
been
same
here so
boat.
long,
I'm the same boat.
I'm really sorry about that.
It's okay.
I speak fluent Danglish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Lord, nowhere is perfect and everywhere has its problems, but I often laugh because I'm like, I so dislike America. I'm so glad that I'm here.
Right.
I'll never go back. But like the one thing that American school systems do better, at least where I was dealing with kids like my son with dyslexia.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just it's been a really hard battle for him. Like his hair fell out. He had alopecia because he was so stressed out about everything and anxious. And it just, well, you have kids. It breaks your heart when you see your kids suffering.
Absolutely breaks your heart. Yeah.
And then I end up getting all pissed off and the mother lion comes out and it's not pretty for anybody.
Alienates the carers.
Oh yeah, I've done my alienating. Yeah. I've done my bridges have burned.
Yeah.
Like not just burn them, I've like thrown an atomic bomb on them. It's gone. It's disintegrated.
So you're just on an island of burned bridges where just
never go back.
Okay.
Well, that's one thing that people can say about me. I mean, and one thing that I know about myself, and there are very few people who are like, Christy. Either they like me or they just can't stand me.
Yeah. That's
cool.
Yeah. I can see how that would be. So when you contacted me, you sent me an email and you said in that email that you are a bad American and very blunt. And I can see that is the case. So let's just talk about where in the States you're from, and then maybe tell me how you ended up in Germany.
I'm from West Virginia. I grew up in what's called the heart of the billion-dollar coal field.
Okay.
It's just the ass of the world now, unfortunately. The only time I hear about like my hometown or where I'm from, there was like a Dateline thing about the most opiate in the world or in the country or in where I'm from. Thank you very much. Yeah, I never fit in there. And my dad did some really unsavory political things, which had people threatening to kidnap me. So they sent me to boarding school, thank God.
Wow.
And that was awesome. Because then finally I found there were other like freaks out there like me, like it was great. And then when my mom left my dad, we landed in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, which is cool. It's like you've got the charm of the South. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there's definitely like tons of racism and all kinds of things, but there's a lot of really good universities in that area. And there's a really well-known arts universities called North Carolina School of the Arts. So a lot of people, a lot of outsiders come to Winston-Salem. And so it gave me kind of an outlet to be Southern and liberal.
Yeah.
Because I love a lot of things about the South, just not the racism, obviously. And then I met my husband, and he's from ass of the world, North Carolina, and also is a bit like me. He just never fit in with all the rednecks. And he studied education and German. And he had just gotten back from doing a year abroad at the University in Mannheim, and had his spot to return to Mannheim to do his, what we called then a Magister, which is like a master's in Germanistic German studies. And it was a whirlwind romance, super fast. And next thing you knew, I was getting hitched and moved to Germany.
What was that like for you? You coming across as, I assume you were just as blunt then as you are now, and
I think it's gotten a little worse with age.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think it has. I definitely give less fucks the older I've gotten. Like I just
you're like a loose cannon now.
It just, actually it was really, really hard for me when I first got here because I didn't speak the language. I tried to do everything like the right way.
Yeah.
So my first degree was sociology. So I really tried to be respectful of the culture and behave like Germans. I tried to learn the language like the right way by doing an exchange, and none of that worked. I couldn't connect with anybody because I think that they could tell that I wasn't authentic, but couldn't put a finger on it. And yeah, I was good in school, except for languages.
Mm-hmm.
And when I finally just said, fuck it, then I finally started to learn German, and I finally started to make connections. But I really had to like let go of all of that. And then I think the problem is that a lot of my self-worth hangs on the fact that I find myself to be an intelligent individual. And so it was really hard for me because I felt like I could not express myself intelligently in German. And so it kind of went back and forth for a long time until I just didn't care anymore.
Right.
I think the exhaustion of having children, there was no place for that anymore.
Yeah.
But for me, the biggest problem was just getting over that hurdle of, I don't care if I don't say it perfectly. I don't care if I don't spell it perfectly. Yeah. I don't care if my articles aren't right. I'm a talkative, communicative person. Yeah. And I just had to talk to people. So yeah, it finally worked itself out.
How long did it take you to feel like that this was home? Because you said earlier that you would never go back to the States. How long have you been feeling like that? Was that right from the early days, or is that more of a recent thing? And how long did it take to feel at home?
Okay, so we came to Germany in 99 and we stayed for like a year, and then we went back to the States and I finished my degree. And in that time, we still would visit our friends over here. And so 2003, I got pregnant with Sophie, and we went ahead and started making plans to get back.
Right.
And I haven't been back to the States in 10 years. I think the last time I was there, it just was like the nail in the coffin for me, that I just don't fit and I don't belong. And it's not where I want to raise children. I just can't be who I am there. And then politically, I have a lot of problems with the way things have been going in the States for a long, long time, not just Trump. So I'd say for a good 10 or 11 years, this has really been home.
Did you say you've not been to the States for 10 years at all?
Right.
Okay. So that is a cut.
I mean, like pretty much all Southerners love to eat. And I think it's a requirement that Southern women need to know how to cook.
Yeah.
And I always enjoyed cooking. But so like the only last things that I really missed was food. And I just make it all here, so there's only one thing that I still need to get from the States, and that's key lime juice.
Key lime juice.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know it, but
okay. Well, it's like it's like a smaller than a regular lime, and it came from the Keys, like the Florida Keys, and it's a real Southern thing, and it's like sweet and tart. And for me, a piece of key lime pie is like, okay, it's summer. So if anybody, because we know I have a lot of friends who work for BASF or they travel and they go back to the States. I'm like, go get me a couple bottles of key lime juice. And that is the only thing now that I need from the States.
That is it. No,
that is it.
No social connections, no cultural nuggets.
I still write people and we connect over Facebook and whatever, but yeah, pretty much that's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that means your kids as well have not had much of an experience of the USA?
No. But they're definitely the third culture kids, because they're so not American kids. But they're not German kids either.
Okay, so they're somewhere third culture kids. Yeah. What has it been like raising them as bilingual kids? Is that something you did? Because obviously you got the similar situation to me and my wife. We're not German native speakers.
Yeah.
So we've just let the German learning happen outside of the house. We haven't really been able to push it in here at home. We speak English with each other. how have you approached the whole bilingualism thing? And are the kids bilingual?
Yeah. Well, see, that's where my husband studied Gamistic.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, and he was a German teacher in the States. So, he's always spoken German to the kids since the first day. He speaks German. I speak English.
Okay. So it's like you have a German native speaker in the house, basically.
Kind of. And he's always said to the kids, your all's German will surpass mine because you're native speakers and I am not. But he's a grammar freak. He teaches English as well. So he's got that grammar in both languages that I'm like, I don't know. Well, I don't know. I just got through it.
Yeah. Who cares about the rules? But
yeah. And luckily, our firstborn is that typical good kid that always wants to make mom and dad kind of happy, so she always did it. And, and of course, socially, English is seen as a positive second language to have. I mean, if it was Russian or Polish, it might be different, but it hasn't been too hard. The youngest one, he's definitely stronger in German, but he's like well, I went back to work and he was in kindergarten all day. And so he had a lot, and he's more social than the girls. He's like Mr. Social Butterfly. He's always doing something.
Right.
And he's always been like that. But now he goes to the international school. So now he's sometimes has to fumble along with the English words now. He's like, but yeah.
He's good. Yeah. I was actually going to ask you about what you're doing about the schooling. So then I assume the other two girls went to the normal German system.
Yeah.
All right.
The girls are at a gymnasium. It's an all-girls gymnasium. And he went to gymnasium, but they were really awful to him with his learning disability.
They being the teachers or the students or everyone?
The teachers and the administration.
Right.
Yeah, they were really horrible.
Like harsh on him?
Just from A to Z, they were completely unprofessional. It's hard for a lot of people, I think, to admit when they don't know something. In my opinion, if I'm going to make a generalization about Germans, they don't love to admit that they aren't the master of something. And the fact that, in my opinion, with dealing with learning disabled children, Germany is about 40 years behind.
Wow.
The rest of the Western world. I tried really hard to be nice and diplomatic. I really did. And then in a meeting with the school director, the head of I don't know what we would call that, the orientation years, and his class teacher, who was also PS, his teacher for 4 other subjects. And she looked at me, even though we had 2 doctor's letters and one from the learning center that he goes to for special dyslexic training, and they're all psychologists. And she said, in my opinion, he has nothing. He's a completely average, foul child.
Wow.
Which
Holy shit.
I kind of lost my fucking shit.
Yes.
And
yes, as a parent, that is the moment.
They kind of heard me out in the hallway, and she kind of had to leave the room because I flustered her so much. At which point I was like, are you fucking kidding me? You're going to get flustered after what you just did? Yeah, you better pray you never see me in a dark street because I will fuck you up. Like, I don't mean that, by the way.
No, yeah. I mean, maybe. Yeah, disclaimer. Legal disclaimer. There's a 50% chance, 50% chance Christy wouldn't actually maim someone.
Legal disclaimer, my 50% of my Pfälzer Weinschorle is gone.
I should have
the Pfalz, that means this, okay? And the Pfalz, it means this much wine and then that much water.
So we're mixing really, really well. I should have I think it's going to be a rule of mine from now on when I get guests on the show that they have to have at least finished 1 alcoholic beverage before we talk. I think it's a good rule to go in.
That's my treat every evening that everyone's alive.
We made it.
I have that. Yeah.
We made it.
Yeah. So he goes to the international school now where my husband teaches.
Now, you also run a coffee shop, right? Christy's Coffee.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes after this quarantine situation.
That's what I was going to ask, because that could be a bit tricky, right?
Yeah. Okay, I'll say it like in a nutshell. I always thought I would work, and I studied, and I wanted my own job, and and I wanted to have something that was mine,
Yeah.
And the Germans decided that they didn't want to recognize my studies, and they didn't even want to recognize me as something that I would even accept. They gave me like pretty much zero recognition, even though I have a master's degree in early childhood development and a bachelor's in sociology.
So that means nothing here, is what you're saying.
It means nothing. What I wanted to be what's called a pedagogue. I wanted to work with, for example, I really wanted to. There was a job at a Mutter Kind house, like a mother. It's like for the young moms, not necessarily unwed, but somebody to basically teach them how to do this, right? Teach them with nutrition, with hygiene, with caring for their children, and all that kind of thing. Like I really enjoy working in those sorts of situations, or as some sort of sozialpädagogin or something in that way. Because we had a refugee live with us for like 6 weeks, and refugee families here in Limburgerhof, and I found sometimes I was able to help them understand things about Germany because I'm not German either. Because Germans love to say, well, it's selbstverständlich. Like, it's obvious.
Yeah, of course it's like that. Yeah.
Like, not for people that aren't German, it's not always obvious.
Yes.
So anyway, long story short, I wasn't recognized to do any of those kinds of things that I wanted to do. So I had this crazy idea, because everybody loves my food, that I'd open a coffee house. Because like pretty much every American, I worked my way through college, waitressing.
Yeah.
Working in restaurants and everything. So I opened this tiny little coffee shop basically around the corner from my house, and it's teeny, teeny, tiny. And it's gotten a lot of really positive reviews, and people really enjoy coming in, and I've, been in the paper, and I got to be in Espresso magazine, which is like the gastro magazine for this area.
Okay.
And all of these things. But the fact is that you just don't make any money. You just don't make money selling coffee and a couple cupcakes. You just don't. So, and then there are all these other bureaucratic issues. I thought the hard part was going to be to open it. It wasn't. The hard part is staying open and, getting through how many hours am I allowed to work if I can still stay on my husband's health insurance? Because if I have to buy my own health insurance, it's crazy expensive. Just all of those sorts of things. Yeah. So I had already been toying with the idea that for the amount of effort that, that I just haven't paid myself yet. And it's a lot of fun and I enjoy it, but I'm 45. I'm probably getting a little bit too old to work for nothing.
Yeah. You want to see the fruits of the labor, essentially.
A little something.
Yeah.
Little like sauna on top. You know what I mean?
It doesn't have to be a much, just a little.
It doesn't. It's not like I was looking to buy like, a fucking Tesla or some shit. I was just looking for like, ooh, let's go get sushi often. Or
just a nice...
let's go on vacation for, 2.5 weeks or, So we'll see. Because, that's one thing that is definitely, I think, American in the sense that we're sort of like, well, if it doesn't work, oh, well, fuck it and move on. It's not like, oh, my God, my whole world is going to,
Yeah.
You try, you'll see. So I don't know. We'll see. I miss a lot of the people that would come in. I had a lot of like young parents come in because I like kids and kids can be kids, or a lot of retired people who would come in. And I think often what I felt like is it speaks to how lonely a lot of people are.
Mm-hmm.
Because I actually like humans. Like Americans are often said that we're just superficial and we'll be like, yeah. But I'm like actually I don't think, one of those superficial Americans. I actually have worried about some of my elderly customers, or there have been a couple of families trying to look for tagas muchas, so like childminders and things. And I've tried to get them together with other people. Like, I really like helping people find those connections that they need, because one of my talents is I talk a lot.
Yeah.
And through that talking a lot and listening to people, I find out about random connections. And probably those kind of connections, or helping people with those kind of connections, was probably the most satisfying thing about having the cafe, more than anything else.
Yeah.
Just
is that human contact and helping people.
Yeah. But I'm also not going to lie. Some days the negativity can be like, some days the negativity is just like so heavy that it's just also really like, I just feel like they just suck like my soul or something, like, because I've had to ask a couple people to leave for their complete racist conversations.
Really?
Yes.
So you would overhear conversations that they were having with one another that were
Well, no, it would be with us. Because like when I say my place is small, I mean, it's like with the kitchen, 29 square meters.
Okay, so you hear everything basically.
Yeah, because everything is an open conversation, which is awesome.
Yeah.
There'd be like 12 or 13 people in there, and it's like sitting in a living room and everybody's talking.
Right.
Right. But sometimes what people say is like not cool. And
what's an example?
Quite frankly,
what's an example of someone you kicked out for what they were saying?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I haven't like kicked out tons of people or anything.
Go to Christy's coffee shop, people. Really, it's okay. She's not going to kick you out. Again, 50% chance.
50%. No, more than that. One thing that really chapped my derriere is that this woman came in and she was like talking to me about, whatever, America. And then I am the spokesperson for apparently all Americans about Donald Trump.
Right.
And many, many, many people have said, well, yeah, you have Trump, but we have Merkel. And I look at them and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Just because you don't like her politics, she's not a Cheeto. She's an educated scientist. And just because you may not agree with her politics, you cannot compare her with the narcissistic man-child who is running the United States. Like, that's not cool. So somehow
it's like apples and oranges, basically, because
it's not even that. It's like a rock and an apple. Like, it's not even something edible, So somehow it gets down to, I don't know, Trump and the whole thing with the immigrants and people of color and Mexican, and I was like, honey, you're in the wrong place. You're in the wrong place. Racism is rampant in America. There's no reason for what he's doing. I don't care if you don't agree with refugees or whatever. They're human beings. You can be against the politics, but there's no excuse to treat another person that way or to say those things about another person. It's just not okay. So she's never come back. Which is cool. I had an older gentleman tell me that the KKK hasn't been active in America since the 1920s.
Oh, all right.
I said, really? When was the last time you were in the States? He was like, oh, never. I was like, are you kidding me? Never. I come from the South, buddy.
Yeah.
I had friends in college who wouldn't come down to my mom's house because you didn't want to be Black in that county. But all in all, there are a lot of really good conversations.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things I like about Germany is there is a lot of negativity, like you say, but I'm always amazed at how open and caring the people in general are when it comes to these political matters. They're pretty, I would say, liberal and do see things in a human and decent way, I would say.
Yeah. And yet I have the feeling sometimes their feelings towards, Black people or people of Middle Eastern heritage. I don't know that it's not blatant racism by any means, but there's a certain ignorance, maybe,
of
I didn't mean anything by it. Like when they say negerkuss for
Oh yeah, I know
the marshmallow things.
That's hard for me as a South African to hear. I mean, like that.
And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Just stab me now, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Or for example, one of my really good friends here is half Canadian. And her son for the school play had to be a Native American.
Oh God, yeah.
You know, an Indian. And she was like, do you really want to, can we rethink this? It was like this very cowboys and Indians.
Right.
And the teacher was like, well, wait, that doesn't mean anything to us here. And she was like, okay, so back in Canada, it would be fine if we had a nice little play of a little Jewish kid and a Nazi. That'd be cool for you?
Yeah, would that be okay? And exactly.
Doesn't mean anything there. Transference, like, didn't really, it doesn't really, transfer. But I try to just remind people, maybe you didn't have slaves like the Americans, and nevertheless, could be a little bit more sensitive in dealing with such matters.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. In some ways, I find it to be so liberal. The fact that my mom can't even put her brain around the fact that, the way the healthcare system works, or that my husband's still getting paid, or the social systems. And then on the other side, there are other things where I'm like, maybe we could work on that, But then on the other hand, my daughters go to a Catholic school and neither one of them are baptized, and they're openly both atheists. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they still have to go to religion class, but that's okay. I think they still burn people at the stakes in the South for being an atheist.
Unconfirmed reports, but we think it's still happening.
Pretty sure it's still happening. Pretty sure.
Well, you seem to have a very, how can I put this? A very grounded view of Germany. So I'm interested. What do you think the thing is here that made you love it in the end enough to stay? Just
the social safety net, which thereby says everyone has enough value to be able to use transportation in a meaningful way that you can actually have that as an option. Healthcare, education. And then the other thing that I really love is that I can yell at other people's children. Other people could yell at my children. I mean, when I say yell, I mean like if somebody sees my kids doing some really stupid shit, they would be like, stop it. What are you doing? And my kids would be like, oh shit. Okay. Yeah. And, when the kids were small enough to go to the playground, and we go to the playground one day, and there were a bunch of young teenagers on the swings smoking cigarettes. Yeah. And I went over to them and I said, look, either you're old enough to smoke cigarettes and you shouldn't be at the playground.
Yeah.
Or you're young enough to be on the playground, so put your cigarettes out.
Yeah.
And they all were like, oh, okay. And that was it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I think you'd get shot in the South for that too. And there's this idea that we are in this together, right? I mean, sometimes people step out of line and go over what they should, but people can tell another person, another adult, what are you doing? You're acting like an idiot, or don't do that. And sometimes you think, oh, but there's this idea that, yes, there are rules of how we're going to behave. And I can say something and I'm not going to get shot for saying it.
Yeah.
And no one's going to show up at my house with their gigantic father and a gun in his hand to say, what did you say to my kid? Like, those are things that happen in the States, So I feel so safe here. As a woman, I feel very safe. I don't worry when my kids take the streetcar or the S-Bahn, or it just doesn't, I don't have that worry.
Yeah. Which is a liberating thing as well.
It is.
Yeah.
So I guess all in all, I fell in love with Germany because I realized it was a really good place to have children.
Right.
Because no place is perfect.
No. So we need to wrap it up pretty soon. But what I ask my guests before they go is what is the one piece of advice you can give to foreigners in Germany who are either just arriving, have arrived, maybe they've been here for a while? What is the one bit of Christy advice you got?
Be open. Don't let your ego get in the way. Sometimes when we're somewhere new, our ego gets involved somehow. Either we feel small or we feel like we don't understand or maybe we don't fit in or I don't know. Just kind of try to roll with it.
Okay. Christy, it's been so much fun talking to you. Thank you for getting in touch, and I'm glad that we could sit down and have this conversation. Where can people find you if you want to be found?
I'm on Insta. My coffee shop is Christy's Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm Christy the Expat. And on Twitter, I'm also Christy the Expat, or I think on Twitter, I'm C Ledbetter for the coffee shop.
Okay. I'll put the links in the show notes. People will find you. I mentioned an update about Christy's coffee shop, and here's what's changed since we had our interview. She updated me on Instagram shortly before this episode went live. Since the interview, Christy decided to close the coffee shop. She writes this: "The COVID-19 situation was just too much. I could only have one table outside and one customer inside since it was less than 30 square meters. Not to mention that my landlord was a horrible asshat." True Christy style. "Don't get me wrong, I am grateful that we are healthy and my husband has a solid job. Perspective is everything. The world has changed and I am certain we will see another wave of this. I hope not, Christy. I hope not." She also says, "I have been able to support my dyslexic son through distance learning." And that's it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. I've got a very cool episode coming up next week with a Schlager music star. I kid you not. A foreigner who is a Schlager music star here in Germany. Until then, go to thegermanyexperience.de/subscribe. You can get links to the latest episodes. You can sign up for my newsletter. You get links to my social media accounts and join the Facebook group. The Germany Experience Facebook group is there to be joined. As usual, music in this episode by my band, 10 Cent Janes, and additional music by Ryan Anderson until the end. Thank you for listening. Auf Wiederhören.